Okay. Yan nga po mga ka-U3, isa po yan sa mga video clips po na nakita po natin patungkol nga po sa naging military aggression ng bansang Russia kontra po sa Ukraine. At yun po ay kuha po ng isa sa mga citizens po doon po mismo sa mga peaceful quote-unquote na lugar sa Ukraine. Nakalungkot po. At yan po ang ating pag-uusapan. Ating aalamin kung bakit nagkaroon ng ganito, anong posibleng mangyari. Ito po ay something na dapat nating malaman dahil sa ating global community, malaki po ang magiging epekto ng mga conflict na ganito sa ating pong ekonomiya. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Sir JR ng Usap Usap University. Kung kayo po ay baguhan po sa ating channel, ang ating channel po ay tumatalakay po sa iba't ibang mga topics, iba't ibang mga issues po ng ating lipunan. It could be political, social, minsan naman po popular culture. Pero sa ating pong episode ngayon, ang ating pong pag-uusapan ay actually ilang oras lang po nakakaraan at nag-announce nga po ng military na aggression ang bansang Russia sa pamumuno po ni Vladimir Putin. At yung nakita niyo pong video kanina, isa po sa mga videos nga po na nakita natin, na nakulat natin mula sa internet. Ilang oras lang po nakakaraan at sa kasamaang palad po ay may mga pambobomba na pong nangyayari, mga putukan na pong nangyayari sa Kiev mismo at sa ibang parte pa po ng Ukraine. At ang atin pong titinan muna ngayon before we continue further with the discussion is yung mga update pa po ngayon. Ngayon po, I'm shooting this video at around close to 4 p.m. Philippine time. At ito nga po, ilang mga minuto lang po nakakaraan, makikita niyo po yung mga updates po dito. And I will be putting this link po. Ito po ay link po ng CNN. Makita po dito ang mga updates po ng iba't ibang reaction ng iba't ibang mga bansa. Katulad po dito, ang reaction po ng, for example, reaction ng Japan. Hopefully you can see this. And then next one would be Belarus. Yung Belarus po kasi ay kaalyado po ng bansang Russia. So yan, may mga updates din po dito. Ukraine Defense Ministry, Russian troops are suffering losses. Pero umpisa pa lang po kasi ng giyera at malamang po ay alam niyo na rin po na ang Russia po ang pangalawa po sa may pinakamalakas na military po sa buong mundo. Meron po silang, I think, around 900,000 na army troops ready to deploy. And so far sa mga bali-balita po is ang kanilang na-prepare so far around the borders before sila umatake kanina is around 100,000 soldiers po, Russian soldiers. So makikita nyo talaga dito mga ka-U3 ang chaos, no? Dahil nga may mga putukan na po talagang nangyayari sa iba't ibang parte po ng bansang Ukraine. At may mga nakikita ng mga military vehicles at iba pang mga updates dito. Pero gusto ko pong pagtuunan ng pansin mga ka-U3 ang mga updates nga po mula po sa iba't ibang mga sources natin at gusto kong intindihin at malaman natin yung totoong sitwasyon sa ground maliban pa sa mga nire-report po ng mga media. Katulad na lamang po nito na isa pong video po na na-post nga po sa TikTok kanina. So tingnan natin to. Okay. Ayan. Alright. So ito naman po, nakita natin naman to na kanina pinost po to ng isang Filipina po na ating pong kababayan po na nandun nga po nakabase sa Ukraine. Pakinggan natin.
Ayan. Ito na yung mga gamit namin. Handa ko na. Baby.
Bata.
Ito, itsura ngayon dito sa lugar namin. Sabi ng asawa ko sa labas, marami na nag-fill ng gasolina. So, maya-maya aalis na rin kami. Palabas ng Kiev, papunta ng Lviv area. Kanina po nagising ako sa tawag na maraming natawag. 6 o'clock. Tapos yung asawa ko nakita ko na dito sa labas ng bahay namin na may kausap. Na yun na nga daw, meron na nga daw nangyayari sa paligid ng Kiev. Kaya recommendation is umalis na ng Kiev.
Oo naman. Okay. At Meron po tayong nakuha dito na video naman. And ito personally, kinuha ko itong compilation na ito dahil gusto kong malaman ano yung magiging strategy ng Russia sa pag-atake sa Ukraine. So meron pong isa pong analyst po na ang CNN, military analyst po. So pakinggan po natin at panoorin po ito.
World is on edge this morning as Russian President Vladimir Putin continues to amass troops and equipment near its border with Ukraine. U.S. officials say they are still committed to diplomatic options, but according to the latest U.S. intelligence assessment, Russia now has close to 75% of its conventional forces postured there at the border. So let's have a walkthrough of exactly what is going on there with Major General James Spidermarks, our CNN military analyst and head of geopolitical strategy at Academy Securities. Okay, can you just tell where all has Putin amassed these troops?
Well, let's take a look at it. And first of all, let's take it from Putin's perspective if we can. NATO member, NATO member, NATO member. That's what started all of this, is this movement of NATO to the east. And that's the view that Putin has that's concerning him. So what you see is these are installations that are routinely occupied by Russian forces. The red positions that you see on the map here are where exercises are taking place. And this is where Putin and President Lukashenko were located this weekend together, observing the exercises. So he has deployed, to include forces down here in Crimea, which we all know he took in 2014. So
yes.
This is incredibly threatening, obviously. Ukraine's surrounded on three sides. So that's what has everybody incredibly concerned, as legitimately they should be.
And it's about the movement. Where are the troops going? So what is the new satellite imagery showing that we've seen?
Yeah, Brianna, let me show you one of the pieces of imagery that just came in. This is a tank location, but also you see tanks as well as support vehicles, which would be refuelers, armored personnel carriers for infantrymen. And clearly what the Russians use is they use their infantrymen and then tanks to support that, which is different from how the United States uses it, where we want to
Tanke
exploit
muna.
with our armor, our tanks, and then the infantry are
Correct.
then used appropriately to do some really precise work. So what you see with this image is this is an indication of a very large, probably, I would say, a battalion or maybe a company within a battalion, which means there are other forces that are outside the range of this piece of imagery that are in direct positions ready to attack. Again, what we don't know, I mean, beyond that, that's intimidating, but what we don't, that's a capability. What we don't know is whether the rule is, or the mission is, to go or to continue to hold what we have.
The towns that we're seeing in these new images are very close to the border. We're talking 21 miles away. How significant is that?
Well, it's very significant because the forces that are in place have an effective range so that they could begin military operations, for example, rockets and artillery, as well as armored vehicles. They can begin operations on Russian soil before they get into Ukraine. The effective range is such as they can start right now and they can achieve objectives on the ground with the positioning not in Ukraine, and that works to Putin's advantage, right? He can hover over Ukraine. He is in his own territory. He has every right to do what he wants to do in Russia, irrespective, in his view, irrespective of what the world is saying right now. But clearly, it is incredibly threatening to Ukraine and its independence.
In all of those troop positions to the north, they're all red, right? These aren't permanent troop positions because they're not in Russia. They're in Belarus, as you mentioned. Putin and Lukashenko there surveying the troops. We've learned, we've learned that these exercises that were slated to end yesterday are now going to continue indefinitely, according to Belarus's defense minister. What does that mean?
Well, again, if you try to get into the head of Putin, what he has now is a permanent presence in Belarus. These are Russian forces that are not routinely deployed there. But in his mind, he sees this as analogous to NATO, U.S. forces, other NATO partners positioning their forces in Poland, for example. We have a core headquarters, a U.S. core forward deployed headquarters in Poland. We have exercises routinely in Romania. We have exercises routinely in Hungary, training exercises. Putin is conducting operations in Belarus, and he sees this as his right to do. And I would suggest that we may not see permanent bases in Belarus, but you're going to see routine exercises between the Belarusian forces and the Russian forces going forward.
Let's listen to something that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said yesterday.
Would we see tanks rolling into Kyiv?
Well, you could see that. I mean, that's highly likely. You could see that. You could see a significant amount of combat power move very quickly down to take Kyiv.
Highly likely. We're talking, the way he describes it, of kind of World War II style images. What did you make of that?
Yeah.
Well, again, let's look at the map. Forces are in Belarus, Kyiv here, capital of Ukraine. The travel distance is not
Very
significant.
close, yeah. Yeah.
They have a significant amount of forces here. They have a capability to invade Kyiv. If they wanted to invade Kyiv, they would need, and then hold Kyiv and then try to replace Zelensky. My estimate is that they would need entirely more forces than what you're seeing up here. I doubt Belarus would send forces across, but they could. That would be significant. But the Russian forces have the capability, and Secretary Austin is absolutely spot on. The capability exists to do significant damage to Kyiv. But as we've discussed before, if you want to take Kyiv, you're probably going to end up rubbling a large percentage of Kyiv. And I think what's more likely is something in this area with a potential expansion there, because that allows Putin to achieve an objective that the world might look at as we looked at Crimea 8 years ago, which was, okay, it's a big deal, until it wasn't, right? So he is increasing his presence already in the Donbass. He could push this further down and the world might say, okay, that's fine. Kyiv still exists, there is no challenge there. But what that allows Putin to do is to convince Zelensky, convince the Ukrainian people, not control them physically, but to convince them that the path forward for them goes through Moscow.
Yeah, he does get away with these little bites. We'll see if he decides to pursue that strategy. Sir, thanks for being with us.
Okay, alright. So yun nga po mga ka-U3, napanood po natin ang analysis po ng magiging strategy po ng Russia. So dalawa, pwedeng mag-start sila sa southern part, katulad nga ng ginawa nila 8 years ago sa Crimea. So pwedeng gawin nilang option kasi parang pwede nilang ma-justify o maipaglaban na itong ginagawa namin ay ang pagtulong sa mga pro-Russian na mga rebelde sa eastern side ng Ukraine. On the other hand, pwede nila talagang i-take over ang Kyiv from the top sa Belarus na area, which is closer actually sa Kyiv. So magkaalyado po kasi ang Belarus at ang Russia. Sa mga latest po ng mga balita kanina po na binasa ko, syempre po when Putin was announcing na magkakaroon nga sila ng military action, actually nabigay siya ng threat na kung sa mga bansa na parang kumbaga tutulong sa Ukraine na talagang gaganti sila kung sino man o atakihin din nila kung sino man ang gustong tumulong. At interestingly, sa isang statement naman ng leader naman ng Ukraine, so sila ay actually humingi sila ng tulong, and they're quite positive na the world is on their side. Interestingly, sinabi din ng Ukraine na hindi ko talaga makakalimutan is na mensahe sa mga Russian na mga sundalo is that they would see us, they would see our faces but not our backs. So talagang lalaban yung Ukraine para syempre ipagtanggol ang kanilang bayan. So hindi ko po alam kung ano pang next pa na posible mangyari dito. What we know for sure is that this is not good for the global economy. Panahon pa ng pandemya, nagkaroon pa sila ng ganito. But on the other hand, stocks are down, the Philippine Stock Exchange is down. At ang titingin po dito, ang kakain ng popcorn ay ang bansang Tsina. Dahil alam naman po natin na wala pong interest ang Tsina sa lugar na ito. However, pagkatapos po during the Olympics, pumunta po si Putin sa China at nagkaroon po sila ng deal na kung saan yung China ang bibili sa around 117, if I'm not mistaken, billion dollars na worth ng gas, ng oil. So strategy po kasi yun kasi usually po kapag nag-declare ng war ang isang bansa, meron po tayong tinatawag na economic sanction mula po sa ibang bansa. At yan po ay natutunan ko sa aking pag-aaral po ng political science sa Mindanao State University. So, yung economic sanction po ay parang pagkondena, paraan ng pagkondena ng isang bansa sa isang bansa na gumawa nga ng isang action. So, katulad na lamang halimbawa ng pipeline project kanina ng Germany. So, nag-release po sila ng statement ang bansang Germany po na ika-cut off po nila yung kanila pong pipeline na deal with Russia. So, isa po yung example ng economic sanction. At iba pa, nag-release na rin ang UK ng economic sanction at iba pang mga pagkondena ng iba't ibang mga bansa. So, na-anticipate na yan ni Putin kung kaya dahil puputulin ang kanilang business relationship with other countries, so sayang yung oil nila, so ang naisip ni Putin in advance is ibenta ito o maging recipient nito ay ang bansang Tsina. So sa halaga nga na $117 billion if I'm not mistaken. So mga ka-U3, ano pong masasabi nyo rito? Ay nako, talagang nakakalungkot ang updates na ito sa ating mundo. Sana ay patuloy pa rin na maghari ang kapayapaan sa napakahirap na sitwasyon na ito na kung saan dalawang bansa nga po ang naglalaban at ipanalangin po natin ang atin po mga kababayan po na nasa Kiev at sa iba't iba pong parte ng Ukraine. Sana po matapos na po ito agad nang hindi po maging malaki ang damage at casualty po sa lahat, no? Sa environment, sa mga civilians, sa mga bata, sa mga magulang, sa mga sundalo. So, we have to really pray for Ukraine. And I hope po na yun nga po, magkaroon po ng mabilis po na solusyon sa problemang ito. So, yun lang po ang aking pong reaction at opinion po sa ating episode na ito. Maraming salamat po sa panonood and I'll see you in our next video. Paalam po. Bye-bye. Peace. Mga ka-youthi, dyan nga po nagtatapos ang ating episode po ng Usap Usap University na kalungkot po ang balita. Marami po ang pwede pong mangyari sa conflict na ito sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa, Ukraine po at Russia. Sana po ay matigil na ito. Ano po ang inyong opinion? Ano po sa inyong pananaw ang dapat na gawin ng United States at ng NATO? Ang NATO po ay kaalyado po ng Ukraine. Paano po kaya may titigil ang kaguluhan na ito sa bansa ng Ukraine? So comment lang po kayo at I'll see you guys next time on our next videos po. Paalam po. Peace. Bye-bye.